Hello again, Tracy.
Stop.
So Christina's not here yet. I had previously met with her online to kind of walk her through how everything works. So hope she makes it. So we zoomed, we screen shared, we went for it.
All right. I did the transgender thing for the other session, and we've been working a lot with that for our committee. But they're differently abled. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I mean, if Tracy or sorry, Christine, presenter, I don't know where they are. I'm going to see if Lindsay's got a phone number, but if they, for whatever reason, are not here to speak to the topic, I'm happy to have a conversation about it as a disabled person myself. So
Yep, that works.
we can still be productive with our time. I'm going to go talk to Lindsay though and see if we can track him down. Do you ever get in touch with Christina?
Yeah.
It's not on there yet, so I want to.
Contact Edwin because he, I think he. Hi, Christine. Period. Your session is supposed to be starting now. Just want to check to make sure that everything's okay.
You sent her a text?
She didn't respond via the Facebook.
All right, well, it's just me and Tracy and Pauline here, and I'm happy to talk about the handicap shit, so we're still going to talk about it. And Christine talked about Euro, so I'm just going to say everything she told me about it. All right. Christine is currently MIA. However, when she and I talked on the phone and I was showing her how to use this platform, she gave me a lot of what she was going to talk about. So I will share what I am able to the extent of that. So as I understand, Christine and her partner were in an accident which resulted in both of them being wheelchair users. So that is her perspective of attending Pride events is someone in a wheelchair. So one of the first points that she brought up to me about hesitancy about attending our Pride, which is at a beach, so it's a static amount of parking, was her ability to secure parking, handicap parking. So that was the first thing. So it was just, how do I get into the event? Is there space for me to even park? Which is something that I hadn't considered. I was like, this place has handicap parking. We've met that need, but it's come up several times from members of that community. When will that handicap parking be full? So take that into consideration, your amount of parking. The other major concern she brought up was bathrooms, and not just the existence of accessible bathrooms, but the cleanliness of the bathrooms. She brought up to me that if she uses, the available like porta potty, even though it's there, given the party atmosphere of Pride, those porta potties are generally gross, and she has no choice but to roll her wheels through the grossness of the porta potty and then carry that into her home and all that. And so I asked her, because to me, I was like, well, what can I do about a messy porta potty? And she was, because I was like, come on, you can't really hold me on the hook for that. So she said to me that there should be a sign on the door that says, if this bathroom is messy, here's a number to call, we'll come clean it. So I think the fact that what I took away from that is essentially I cannot anticipate the individual needs, but I can offer a phone number to call. You know what I mean? So that was a takeaway that I had. Like, I can't monitor the bathrooms as well as you can, but I can give you a phone number. You can call me. There's support needed. And she was also sharing, she wanted to share that she's involved in various leagues. I think she told me she was getting into ski sledding, and I think she was into bicycling. And so she was wanting to share, that even though you're physically disabled, you're still. I think that's what she was trying to explain with that, but those are the points that I think need to be communicated. So yes. So I myself, I can't use my right hand. So it's I still have a right hand. It's just it doesn't function. So it's not the most visible disability. So when I'm at events where they're like real crowded, and like you need to be physically able to like take care of yourself. Sorry. Christine also brought up seating. She brought up people who get tired out easily or who need shade. So you need places where people can kind of rest and rejuvenate. But Pride is a very taxing event. It's usually in the summer out in the sun, and we need to be considerate that people need to, rest. That was another takeaway. So something that I'm always aware of is distance, safety. Like, can I get away from the crowd if I need to? And and in our Pride, we've never leaned too heavily into making sure we're accessible. That's not something we've always had as a conversation. And I think that's because we fall back on the fact that we're at a location, and so therefore they're ADA compliant, therefore we're compliant. But we've had issues come up before with vendors having allergies. There was a group there, and an individual had a latex allergy, and they were placed next to a balloon booth. So taking into consideration the proximity and the medical needs of not just our attendees, but our vendors, brought up a good point. When we're being considerate, we also need to be considerate of the people participating in the event. All right, so those are my tactical points of importance. So what would you like to
So, I was going to tell you a story. We did an event in Austin, and the community wanted a drag show. So it's at Salino's Hall in Onset, and we're like, all right, I went and checked it out. They have an elevator, it goes right up. And we usually only have, if none, one person in a wheelchair or none. So we said, all right, well, why don't we, and again, I hate saying, why don't we just make this table for somebody in a wheelchair, because they're not going to be able to navigate through all the other tables. So we're like, okay, well, I know that the person that wanted this event is in a wheelchair. My friend Tom could or could not be in a wheelchair. He's got his canes on his arms. I said, all right, so let's kind of save on a couple tables around, make sure that the accessibility of the two entrances or exits, those tables will have for the two wheelchairs. We had five people. He didn't come with the wheelchair, Tom, but the four other people did. We're like, now what do we do? We're like, okay, so we asked the people at these tables because we wanted to make sure that everybody had a great time and individuals would be able to get out to use the restroom and not have to go, oh, excuse me, could you move? I have to use the restroom. So we didn't think, right? We thought, right? We're like, okay, all right, let's just use two tables just in case. And we're like, oh my God, now we didn't have enough. We need to think bigger.
Well, no, you know what it reminds me of? It's like when we're talking about all this inclusivity and stuff, and we're talking about how it needs to be what starts at the top level. So instead of making room for wheelchairs, we just need to make it, the event needs to operate on the assumption that every single individual will be in a wheelchair. It just needs to be a top level down thing.
And to make sure that we have 36 inches between each table.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we don't. But that's what we learned.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So okay, we got it. Next one, we got it. You know.
Yeah. It's like just that top level inclusivity.
We're dealing with a population that's getting older,
mm-hmm.
and we're dealing with crowds. So sometimes it's not enough to be able to say, all right, this space is wide enough for a wheelchair, and it might have to be wide enough for two wheelchairs going the opposite directions, or even more than that. We have to accept the fact that it's going to be crowded in places. And you can't just say, all right, well, a wheelchair could get through there. Okay, but there are 20 people standing there right now.
Yeah, and with things like that, I feel like you need to be able to establish like immediate means of egress. Like Paul, you're saying, like there are places that are going to be crowded. So we need to like look at that and say, okay, even though it's going to be crowded, it can be evacuated in 30 seconds. That's how I look at things.
I don't know if this sounds, well, I'm just going to say it. So I know like when you're on the road or you're on different paths and they have a arrow that says bike path. I mean, is there a way that we could do that? That we put like a accessibility path, ability path? I mean, I'm just trying to, I don't want to upset anybody's feelings or hurt anybody, but I'm just like.
No, I mean, this is very nuts and bolts. I think the thing is not to jump to what the answer is. The point is you need to recognize it, because then you're standing on the street. Then you can say this is 20. It's X feet wide. It would make sense to do arrows. Or you could say it's this feet wide. So we need to space out more vendors because this is going to get too much. You know what I mean? Like if your lane, let's say, is 10 feet, and you determine that you need 16 feet for two wheelchairs, then you're going to stagger your booths to establish that, or something like that. I think it's more, not jumping to the answer. You know, it's realizing the risk, and when that's top level in how you're approaching any given event, you know. Yeah, I think I work for the government in the military, so everything is a procedure. Everything is, you realize it, you address it, and you know. So if you identify this area is going to be real crowded, and you're like, well, what if you have somebody who's about to pass out? How far is a seat with shade from that? That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I wrote down tired, you know, out of shape. I mean, our pride is usually 500 or 700 people, and our vendors are up and down, straight up and down. Our stage is in here, and then all the way down the other end are the restrooms. And the food has to be on the street in front of the restrooms, you know. So I'm just wondering, maybe, you know, we work on that rest tent.
Yeah,
you know, I take that break. You know, I kind of like that idea. Maybe in between the stage and the bathrooms and the food, that we have a rest area.
Yeah, because if you're dragging people like half a mile down the block, and then by the time they get out there, they're like, "Whoa, I'm tired, but I got to go all the way up to get back to that rest station."
Yeah.
Yeah. See, look, you like, now that you're looking for it, you identified it, and then you can take action on it. That's great.
I know there's 5 people on the thing. I keep looking at the eye. I don't know if anyone wants to put something in the chat, folks. Join in.
Yeah, in the chat, like, what is an event? Like, think of your pride, identify a risk to somebody who is disabled in one way or another, or differently abled. I don't know.
I like the idea that somebody had said earlier, or maybe not even this conversation, another one, about the restrooms not being labeled, him or hers, and just identifying that we have, a safe, secure place for people to go to use the restroom. The announcements, you just kind of say that kind of piece. We've been having a tea dance, or we were before the COVID, at the Harbor Hotel downtown in New Bedford, and they actually have one restroom for female and male, if you want to call it that. And then I just say to everybody, listen, there's another restroom, it's by itself, but anybody can use, whatever restroom you identify as. There's another inclusion one, or just whatever you want to call it, down the handicap ramp, we don't say handicap ramp, down the accessible ramp, in the back, down the back, because they actually have a restaurant bar area, and then they actually have another function room.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's important.
For our youth, we usually just say gender neutral single occupancy.
Gender neutral.
That's usually what we do, so basically whoever's in there is whoever's in there, and no judgment kind of thing.
It is a bathroom for humans to use.
Thank you.
Yeah, but because we're dealing with a lot of times with teenagers, we usually do the single occupancy, just because, teenagers are teenagers. They're going to do what they're going to do.
I remember planning events at Ocean Beach, and I remember the bathroom there connected to the bar, and I saw that, there were guys at the bar who were going to be using the same bathroom as the kids, and I was like, we need to, that's a risk right now, and we need to address it one way or the other, because and the way that this bathroom is set up is you basically walk into the urinals. So it's like every time the door opened, I was like, whoa, that's not safe.
I mean, one thing I learned last few years is terminology, or I'm a youth advisor as well, and we had our Bagley quarterly meeting in New Bedford at our Agley, and we don't have enough space, so we rented the Harbor Hotel, who's got that space room. And I said, hey, if anybody wants to visit our center, I said, we don't have a handicap ramp, but I kept looking at the person in the wheelchair. And I said, I'm like, I'm really sorry, but you might not be able to get in. And at the end, the adult advisor that came with the youth said, listen, I just want to talk to you about terminology and things, and not just pointing to you kept looking at that one individual. I said, you're right. I just felt so bad. And all you have to say is, listen, the center's down the street. You can see it through the windows. There's a 1.5 foot step up, and it's only this wide. If you guys want to come on down and check it out. And I was like, you're right. And I'm learning every day, and I was like, you're right. And it didn't dawn on me until someone pointed it out to me, and very nicely, not like, oh my God, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And I took it very well.
I think you bring up a good point in, I have one hand. So it's in somebody, when they make the assumption I can or cannot do something, it's just not, beyond any kind of personal offense, it's just not an accurate assessment, because I don't know if I can or cannot unless you give me the details, just like you were saying to that person. You saw a wheelchair, but the wheelchair user, they can or cannot, but when giving them parameters, they can make the correct assessment. Like, I know, you let me know, and then I can know if I can do it with one hand.
And not realizing that when the person came down the street in the wheelchair, they had the canes with the little things on the hand, and he walked in. So I was like, my own thought was like, well, I can't make it in because he's in a wheelchair.
Right, because you jumped, you made that assumption, like jump to it.
Yeah, I did. Totally.
Which is human.
I won't do that again.
I mean, I'm sure you felt terrible and wanted to just pick him up and carry him in, but I guess we have to check ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm so parental, you know what I mean? I'm like, I want to make sure that everyone's taken care of and blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm. When it also, differently able and all that, a lot of it's not just physical. A lot of it, is mental, emotional, whatever. It's non-visible. So providing as many details about like the physical environment that you're hosting the event is really helpful. If you say we're going to be holding it at this location and we're expecting a big crowd and loud music, or we're having it here and it will be just giving helping people understand what they're going into, because if their first experience is a negative one because they go to something and it's loud and overwhelming, they're not going to want to come back to your events. But if I go into something knowing it's marketed as loud and overwhelming, then I'll bring earplugs and I'll have a better time, and I'm not surprised. Because once I started wearing earplugs to the loud parties, I started having a better time.
Yeah, I've worn earplugs to concerts before.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know if anybody in the chat is involved. Well, they're here. They're with us in spirit only, I suppose.
I think I'm from this meeting. I'll be real honest. That's who I am. I've had 3 left knee surgeries. What there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I've had 3 left knee surgeries, 2 separated left shoulders. I need a partial right knee surgery. I've had carpal tunnel in my hand, and I weeble, I walk, I do the best I can. And our committee always, they say to me from time to time, "Oh, well, we get stairs, and Tracy will do this," and then I'm like, and after today's meeting, I'm like, no, you wouldn't say that to somebody that's in a wheelchair. You wouldn't say that to somebody that has crutches. You wouldn't say that to somebody else in the community. So I need to stand up for myself. And from this meeting, I will be doing that. I don't want to hear, what's going on, because I do the work, So I don't have a handicap play card. I could go get one, but that doesn't mean anything just because I have a play card by just my ability. So when I go back to the board, I'm going to kind of stick up for myself, because I'm sick of, I hear it from time to time, and I weeble and I wobble and I walk up one at a time and I walk down one at a time, and I'm like, it gets embarrassing, but it's not to me. I get to the top and I get to the bottom. But we lost Leo.
Looks like we lost Leo. I know he's been having a lot of computer issues this week.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He's had it crash a few times.
Yep.
I don't know. Is he?
Yeah.
He's still here. He's just not on video anymore. According to this, oh wait, now maybe he's not on that anymore either. Nope, now we're down to just 4 of us. Now we're down to just 3 of us. So Don is the only one out there just lurking.
How do you know who's lurking?
If you look over on the right, click on session, you can see people. You see chat, polls, people, Q&A.
Spike. Thanks for shopping. Yeah, I met Donna at Rhode Island Pride's NERP a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only NERP I've been to was the one in New Hope 2 years ago.
Well, I just started coming back to NERP. I was part of it in the 90s when I was on Cape Cod Pride. And I've been in Philadelphia. Are they here? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, but back then it was a little different. Everyone always traveled to help and help and help. And it's just hard. I mean, we're also doing our own stuff, and now virtually, it's hard to kind of do anything. So, but we highlight Boston Pride, Rhode Island Pride, and Cape Cod Pride in our month of June. We let everybody know what's going on with your events. And Fall River Pride is Sunday after our New Bedford, our South Coast Pride. So we highlight that. Plymouth, Mass now has a Pride. I know that Hope is from North Shore Pride. And then Worcester does theirs in September. there's just a lot of local prides in New Bedford that are just, we need to keep sharing information.
Yeah, I think Worcester is the closest one to me. I have not hooked up with them yet.
Yeah, I like to go. I don't go to support at a table. My foster daughter dates boys and girls, so I ended up taking her and her sister and their gay friend and went up.
Okay. I'm a little bit north of Worcester, so that's the closest one to me.
No, but where do you live, Polly?
Clinton.
Yep.
But I'm still associated with outCT because I've been there for so many years.
Oh yeah.
I just, I've only been up here for a couple of years, and I just haven't got myself settled yet.
Yeah, I actually go to Cape Cod Pride started back up again. So last year we actually had a booth at Cape Cod Pride.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll do a booth at Rhode Island Pride, depending on how many people we have. Our committee is growing, thank God. It's just tough when it's 3 people in a whole South Coast, that are doing all these events and whatnot to get around everywhere. Or to be at a and then, put on your own event.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But if we don't support each other, what are we going to have?
I hear that one.
So, yeah, it's been really interesting. See, Donna says she volunteers 3 days at Boston Pride. It's really interesting, this whole weekend, this whole conference about reimagining what Pride is and making sure it's reaching out to all the right people. It's been pretty fascinating.
Oh, definitely. Oh, he back.
My headphone driver crashed.
That's all right. We've just been chatting about life.
I'm having the most bizarre technical failures.
We just figured your laptop crashed again.
I'm on my desktop and I restarted it because my audio converter crashed.
Oh. I'm actually trying desperately for the last few days to fix Windows. My Windows I've got some corrupted files, and I'm trying all kinds of things to try to rebuild it. So that's constantly going on in the background here.
Mm-hmm. So Tracy, my sound crashed out when you were sharing. I caught the end of it. It was about steps, and you wouldn't ask that to a wheelchair user or crutches.
Oh yeah, that I again have a lot of body issues. That I go up and downstairs one at a time. Even Pride Day, I said, well, next Pride we do, I'm getting a golf cart. They're like, oh, I said, no. I said, that helps me go back and forth and back and forth. By the time I'm halfway done, I'm like, I'm dead. I said, but I'm making reasonable accommodations for myself. So I need to make sure that I speak up for me. I may not have a handicap play card, a placard, but in my mind, I could, but it shouldn't matter. Anybody says this is where I'm at, you don't ask them,
Yeah, so, that's legit. Yeah, think about it. The majority of people who are needing the accommodations that we were just discussing are not going to be they're not going to be totally apparent. If somebody's got mobility issues, in, sunlight, endurance, whatever.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to roll up with a van and we just need to make sure we have benches.
Yeah.
Or like you're saying, if we want people to volunteer for our organization, but if there are barriers that you need to be able to haul ass 10 miles in an event, that's cutting out. We're missing it there. There needs to be reasonable accommodations. Yeah, I guess that's a thing too. When we talk about accessibility, it's not just about the people attending the event. We got to think about people who can volunteer with us.
One thing I like today is the ASL was here. Our youth group, we're working on trying to get Rev for our Zoom, where 80% of the words I'm saying is captured on the screen.
Yeah. For
our kids that are hard of hearing, or the kids that aren't safe, where mom, dad, auntie, or family are hearing what the conversations are. So I keep writing down, I keep highlighting stuff that when we do things, we really need to take that step and make sure we have that ASL.
That's a good point. Safety with all these online events, you got to have some privacy, and having that captioning. That's important too. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
But we got the idea. One of the other ag leads in the state posted they were doing it, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know they had that." It's called Rev, R-E-V. So we're working on getting that now. We ended up getting a grant from Montigny's office for technical support and for nutritional needs. So we're going to put that under our technical support fund.
Fantastic. And then we could talk about it in our technical support Facebook group. I'm really excited about that.
When's that one?
Remember we talked about it in that first workshop?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant there's another one. I'm like, wait a minute. I just
No.
checked my page. We only have one at 4.
No, we're
Yeah,
making
technical support. Yep.
And I made a computer made a spreadsheet that I'm excited to share at the plenary.
Right, cool.
Well, does anyone have anything else to talk about, or do we want to give ourselves a break?
I
don't have anything particular to talk about.
All right. Well, we've got an hour and 15 minutes until the plenary, and
See you later.
I could go for a bike ride.
yeah, do your thing, and I'll see you all in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.